Mohammed bin Salman, the de facto Saudi leader, has been given immunity by the United States over the killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. The ruling came following a lawsuit that was filed by his ex-fiancée, which aimed at securing unspecified damages in the U.S. from the Crown Prince for Khashoggi's murder. Khashoggi, who was a prominent Saudi critic, was murdered at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul back in October of 2018. U.S. intelligence has said it believes Prince Mohammed ordered the killing, as has President Joe Biden on numerous occasions. But in recent court filings, the U.S. State Department said he has immunity due to his new role as Saudi Prime Minister. After Friday's ruling, Khashoggi's ex-fiancée wrote on Twitter that Jamal died again today, while the Secretary General of Amnesty International said that America's aim to deepen its ties with Saudi Arabia may have translated into immunity today, but at some point it all adds up to impunity. And joining me now from New York to discuss this further is Gerard Filitti, a senior counsel at the Lawfare Project. Thanks for coming on this evening.
Thank you for having me.
We have to start with the total 180 here. During his campaign, Biden vowed to make Saudi Arabia a pariah state over the assassination of Khashoggi. Then his administration moved slightly away from that narrative when he visited the kingdom in July this year. And now this. What do you make of this U-turn?
Well, I think in part it's not so much a U-turn as the recognition that there are some principles of customary international law that apply regardless of one's political ideology or personal preference. In this case, head of state immunity is something that is well recognized in international law. And because Mohammed bin Salman is the prime minister of Saudi Arabia, that principle applies to shield him from liability as long as he is in office. So it's not so much that Joe Biden or the administration wants to give immunity to this man for killing Khashoggi. It's a matter of recognizing principles of international law.
So if it's international law, could that also be possibly about bettering U.S.-Saudi ties? It didn't really seem to work after Biden's visit because relations soured even more. So why should something change now?
I think it's an uncomfortable relationship that the Biden administration has had with the Saudi government. In a way, we need them for their oil. We need their support to develop Middle East policy, to stand united against Iran and prevent it from having a greater sphere of influence in nuclear weapons. At the same time, it's distasteful to deal with a purported ally who engages in extrajudicial killings in foreign countries in their embassy. So this is a dichotomy that's not well addressed. And unfortunately, this ruling will spark a lot of agitation and anger from people, even though it is a correct application of principles of law.
Absolutely. It seems like it definitely is sparking some kind of anger amongst people. But the Biden administration was also keen to emphasize that the ruling was not a determination of innocence, and they made this very clear. But it surely looks that way. Was this just to appease human rights groups?
Well, to back it up one step, there's an important distinction to be made. This is not yet a court ruling. The court asked the Biden administration to provide its opinion, to provide input on its interest in this case, especially whether the government thinks that head of state immunity applies. The government responded that it does, even though it takes no position on the underlying facts. In other words, it's not saying that Salman is not guilty or innocent of this. It's saying that this is a principle of law that it recognizes. It's still up to the court to issue a ruling whether Salman has immunity or not. So this has not yet been decided. It is just the position of the U.S. government that it complies with these normal aspects of international law.
So as someone in the legal field, where do we go from here? For many of the human rights groups, as well as his ex-fiancée, wondering if the case is just being swept under the rug, is there justice still to be demanded over Khashoggi's brutal dismemberment and killing? And if so, justice by who exactly?
Well, absolutely, there's still justice to be demanded. This case is not yet over in the U.S. It's still a case that could be brought in The Hague. This is a matter of an extrajudicial killing that is of global significance. And the issue here is that this is not whether or not he has head of state immunity does not provide a final resolution. There are legal arguments to be made that there are exceptions. We have seen this, for example, in the Pinochet case many years ago, that some distasteful criminal acts that are committed by heads of state do not lead to immunity. So the avenues of finding liability, of getting justice for Khashoggi's killing are not yet foreclosed. We just have more to go to get there.
I suppose reassuring for those people that do seem to be or have sparked some kind of anger over the latest developments. Gerard Filitti, a senior counsel at the Lawfare Project, thank you so much for your analysis this evening.
Thank you so much for having me.